I think this Congress of Accountants is coming at a very crucial time for Mauritius, would you believe? Very crucial time for Mauritius, because you may have a look at the papers. Most of them are in French, but some are in English. And if you do have a look at the papers, you see the number of financial scandals, I would call, happening at the moment in Mauritius. And I think it's something that we all need to have a look at and to see how, as accountants, we can reflect on the accuracy and fairness and timeliness of corporate reporting. To make it worse, some of these companies are major listed entities, so it in fact affects the public at large. As part of your deliberations, I think we need to look at the role and effectiveness of accountants and auditors in the current context, and to what extent we can as accountants hope to make things better. Of course, Africa is not just destructive industries that are booming. Africa is democracy now. Africa is good or better governance. Africa is better use of resources. Africa is also sound economic policies. All these are contributing to the robust growth in Africa. And this robust growth, of course, is creating a large middle class. And a large middle class consumes a lot of things. So there's a lot of scope. For 2015, the World Economic Forum estimates that growth in Africa will be 5%, the World Bank a little bit less at 4.6%. Now we see in Mauritius that there's tremendous potential for intra-Africa trade and intra-Africa investment. Now we developed some time ago a holistic Africa strategy which aims to boost investment, which aims to boost trade, whether goods and services, and of course aims to boost exchange of people. That is the crux. When people get to meet each other, that is when deals happen, and that is when friendships are made, and that's when partnerships are created. So in fact what we've made is of Mauritius a meeting place, not only between us Africans, but also, since we have no visa requirements for Indians, for Chinese, for Russians, for Europeans, for Americans, Mauritius can be a hub, a meeting place for all the peoples of the world to meet people of the region. In order to help on goods and trade, goods particularly, there's a subsidy on freight exports to freight costs to regional ports. There's a subsidy on credit guarantee on insurance. If you're manufacturing in Mauritius for Africa only, you're allowed to set it in the free port, and in the free port of Mauritius you pay 0% tax. So we've gone some way, a long way if you want, to helping our industry and the region in developing intra-Africa trade. The one remaining factor that we need to have in Mauritius and across Africa, and that is connectivity. It is difficult to move around in Africa. It's difficult to move from Mauritius to the rest of the continent. It's difficult to move people. It's difficult to move goods. It's more expensive to have a container move from Mauritius maybe to Mombasa than from China to Mombasa. We're talking to the Chinese authorities very seriously about Mauritius becoming a hub for traffic from Africa to Asia. And that would make a big difference if tomorrow we have not only large number of flights from China, all the towns in China to Mauritius, and onwards to all the capitals around Africa. With connectivity, we can not only develop our financial services and become a center for finance for the whole region, there's also development of educational services coming up very, very much in terms of tertiary education, a medical hub so that we can provide medical services. We talked about shipping, and of course airport transit.
The theme of the event is Africa Rising, and this is shown in the number of participants from the different countries here. It's people from all around the world are very interested in what is happening in this particular side of the world. Obviously, the most is from Mauritius, over 150 somewhere there. But the second country with the biggest number of delegates is Nigeria. And then third place we have Ghana. Then we have around a couple of countries, probably more or less the same. Tanzania, Uganda, we have Kenya as well. And I'm presently pleased Surprisingly pleased that people from Spain have come to this Congress, from Reunion Island, and some people from Kosovo.
Africa is indeed rising. Globally, when we think of growth, we often think of the so-called BRICS countries. But when it comes to growth, Ethiopia rivals China, and Zambia outpaces India. You are seeing rapid economic growth in an average of 5% per year in sub-Saharan Africa over the past decade. But Africa is also at a crossroads. Despite economic growth, we would all like to have much more progress in reducing poverty, improving people's lives, and putting in place the foundations for more inclusive and sustainable growth. This conference provides an excellent opportunity to discuss the role the accountancy profession can play in helping Africa convert its economic growth into real opportunities and a brighter future. I'm particularly excited about exploring Mauritius as an African financial hub. Maximizing this opportunity and achieving this recognition will require a robust institutional framework, adoption and implementation of international standards, and creating and sustaining high-quality financial reporting through strong and effective regulation and enforcement. Other countries that have been successful in attracting substantial capital flows typically have a robust infrastructure in place. A strong accountancy profession is a critical element in many areas, including, first of all, a strong profession is essential to providing support for capital markets, preparing and auditing financial results that provide assurance for lenders and investors. A strong accountancy profession is essential to providing support for small and medium-sized entities, which we know are so critical to the African region. A strong accountancy profession is essential to enhance public sector governance, transparency, and accountability so that countries can realize their goals of achieving sustainable economic development and providing better services to their citizens and ultimately reducing poverty and inequality. Africa is rising. The accountancy profession, supported by strong PAOs, will play a game-changing role in this rise.
By 2030, we want only 3% of the world population to live on less than $1.25 a day. The second goal is to boost shared prosperity. So we want to focus on the welfare of the bottom 40% of the population. The accountancy profession is already helping to achieve these important twin goals in Africa. But together we could do much more to improve the lives of all Africans. Sustained economic growth over 20 years has contributed to really successful development in some sense. Given that growth, you would expect poverty to have reduced significantly. And while we have seen substantial progress in improving the lives of citizens globally, in Africa the performance is much more disappointing. Many still do not have access to basic services. 1.4 billion people in the world do not have access to electricity. In Africa, despite that sustained economic growth, averaging above 5% in the past 2 decades, poverty has only reduced by 13 percentage points, from 60% to 47%. In Africa, despite that sustained economic growth, averaging above 5% in the past 2 decades, poverty has only reduced by 13 percentage points, from 60% to 47%. Why is this slow pace in poverty reduction despite growth? First one is fragility and conflict. After a decrease through the mid-2000s, violent deaths due to conflict and violence against civilians in particular has steadily risen since 2012. Reducing conflict risks and promoting stability should be especially high on the agenda of policymakers. The accounting profession is already making a difference by helping create transparent and accountable states where they do not exist yet, and by allowing development partners to provide assistance in the most challenging environment. Health and epidemics also do not have any borders. And diseases have impacted the region, in particular recently. The primary and secondary impact of the Ebola epidemic has reverberated. Again, the accounting profession was there during the epidemic and could be there as we rebuild these countries better. We also have a challenge that cuts across the continent, and that is the challenge of governance. Governance weaknesses have negatively impacted the ability of all Africans to benefit from the growth experienced throughout the continent. And we know what they are. They include political and administrative corruption, weak institutions and procedures, patronage, nepotism, low and unsuitably qualified capacity, and lack of performance in the delivery of services. It is the partnership that is emerging between the accounting and the auditing profession and a number of oversight entities across the continent to tackle the governance challenges. In order for this partnership to be fruitful, it needs to be sustainable. And in order for this to be sustainable, it requires a strong accounting profession across the continent, working in compliance with international standards and pronouncements. We need to push the envelope in order to ensure that the accountancy profession really accelerates its contribution to improving the lives of Africans. And there are only 4 areas that I would like to highlight where this is particularly important. The first one is the establishment and maintenance of strong professional accountancy organizations. Second big challenge, accelerating the development of qualified professional and technician accountants. Accelerate the design of technician and professional qualifications that include public sector subjects in their curriculum. Professionalize the public sector. Encourage and support women to join and study to qualify as accounting technicians and as professional accountants.